Jack Kirby, since I already did something on IDW, since I have a lot of Kirby collections, I wanted to go through some of them. And here's one from the great Tomorrow's Productions, and they have this re-release of something that was done in the '70s, which has some nice pictures of Jack Kirby and art. It's a classic book, you know, some of his etchings from I believe from the war, some of it, some later drawings, news strips, and here is the original, which was the same difference, and you get to see Kirby color in there. So before we go, since we talked about the T.O. Morrows, now one thing you can go out and get, or you hopefully have these in collection, because they're one of the first that did the large Treasury Edition sort of magazines. They've kind of brought this back outside of Barry Windsor Smith's what is it, Storyteller. You got this, and you got, I picked out the two that have some Superman drawings by Kirby. And this one was inked by Neil Adams. This is one of my favorite picks of Superman done by Kirby. One that wasn't released, it was a sketch. Do I have a picture of that? Yeah, we do. We have the original sketch, and I'm very close to that. We quickly go through this because I really kind of got lost the last time. Got Darwin Cook and Kirby redoing a picture that was done. That one was more from the '70s. This one was actually probably around the '80s with the superpowers. So again, you have a nice black and white art. You got the original of that Superman drawing. It's close. You know, this is close to, I'm not sure how old. I think he was past 60 at this point, and still, you know, still looking somewhat like the Kirby in all capital letters. And we also have something inked by, you have a Thor image inked by, it's from Jerry Ordway. So this is a nice Thor image, and this is a Kirby sketch or anything like that. So since we're still here, before we get out of here, we go to some of the Treasury books that you can just pick up that don't cost that much. 2001: A Space Odyssey. But oh yeah, before we go, there are many Jack Kirby collectors and collections of these books. So they're if you're a Kirby fan, you have to have these different articles on this, interviews from the past. And I guess we'll quickly go through this. We have the reprint of the Mangog, the Ragnarok story, where Mangog almost pulls out the sword. And we have Captain America Bicentennial Battles, which as a kid, I wanted this book so bad, and I'm not sure I had it. I think my brother might have had it, and that's why I don't feel direct connection to it. But this was a definite fan favorite. And let's get out of this. Let's get through this, because I'm going to try to get this one in a decent amount of time. Let's say goodbye. I'm going through Simon and Kirby, the best of. Now this has their whole multitude of work that they've done together. And of course, I still forgot the other collection I wanted to have when I was doing this. The table of contents. So this has superheroes. This also has westerns. This has their sci-fi work, their horror, their war, and some of the humor stuff that they did. And it's also, you're going to see in a lot of these collections are restored stuff from the 40s and 50s, something close to what we would see in, maybe even better than what we see in the 80s from comics. But, you know, this is something that they had to I have two others of those. Of course, I had to go and buy the superheroes with the Fighting American. This also has the Fly in it. And it also has an approach. I always bring up the Fly outside of the connection of Spider-Man, is because here you can see in this thing, it's in the 50s, you can see a little bit of all capital letters Kirby in this, the Private Strong, the Shield. But I like to go to the Fly. And Kirby is known for his double splash pages. But for the Fly, what does he do here? something that Neil Adams did later, which is the wide angle screen, which is a sort of double splash page, but with storytelling underneath, the story going underneath there. Now, this is something that Neil Adams did in the Superman versus Muhammad Ali. A lot of the pages are set up like this. Also, Steranko did this in his Outland, and that was in, I think it was published in what is Heavy Metal, and also used by Frank Miller in his 300 series. And I think there's also in his what's that book called Holy Terror. And then of course you had to have the crime, because this has a lot of techniques. Some techniques that Kirby, I don't think, use the circular panels and sort of different things to bring you in there. Different like cool stuff in here. And oh, we got one of their classic double splash page of Guy Fawkes and the remember the 5th of November. I think that's what it is, the national holiday in England. So did I screw that? Of course I screwed it up. Let's go with it says. Let's see. Yep, I got it right. The 5th of November. Then you have this to my Valentine, a lot of, and I think Max Allan Collins, he talks that some of these stories are based on true stories, and that's in his intro. And that's one of the other things you get in a lot of these Kirby collections. And we'll go to this book here, which is like a biography on Kirby. A lot of them have more tidbits that you might not have gotten in this Kirby thing, but we'll get to that in a second. Just want to get to those books that definitely take Simon and Kirby. This was, I'm not sure, I don't know the publisher, Jack Kirby at his board right there. And some drawings here. And this covers his entire career from Captain America. I probably should have done this first to the Fantastic Four, and then to the New Gods. Nice reproductions of everything, with keeping with the 4-color process, not anything overly shiny, to his later work. The art of Simon and Kirby Studios. And not only does this have Kirby work, it also has some Joe Simon's work. It has Bill Draught. It has Mort Meskin, anyone that worked in their studios. And you'll see that, you see this one isn't Kirby, but this picture is. It's all in black and white. And keeping Bullseye, which I think, was this one in there? No, Boys Ranch is the one that is one of the things that people like, but wasn't as successful. But you get some nice black and white art. And this in tomb, as they say in there. So I'm saying this is kind of going to the new style of Kirby. But you didn't, it just snuck up on us. But you can see bits always talking about history. We got the Masters of Imagination. And this book is the Comic Book Artist Hall of Fame by Mike Benton. 10 classic artists. It has Will Eisner, Joe Shuster, Jack Kirby, C.C. Beck, Jack Cole, Carl Barks, Will Kelly, was it Basil Wolverton, Harvey Kurtzman, Wally Wood. It has a few more on Steve Ditko and Alex Toth. Now this book gives you, it's pulled from other pieces, but it has a lot of nice history, and it has a checklist, which is a must to have. Now I also have the Art of Kirby that's in one of these other books, these boxes down here. And that also has a nice checklist. So I would almost, even though I don't have it here to show you, I think it's by R.C. Wyman. That has a nice checklist of stuff. But since everyone talks about the history of Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, Joe Simon with his son did The Comic Book Makers. Now this book here has with Captain America, the stuff that happened when the rights came. Rights were, they were supposed to get the rights back, and Joe Simon sued, and well, that's not neither here nor there. But some of Simon's early sketches, and of course you have some Kirby in here, and Kirby's all through this. Some things from Joe Simon telling his side of the story. Now, before I go from there, since we're sticking with Simon and Kirby, you have to go to the genre they created, young romance, which would be their sort of the romance books. Another thing which Fantagraphics did, their 2 volumes here, and they also restored try to keep that sort of 4-color process, but it made it look nice for reproduction. So you have that. I think they might have. Oh, this is different inker. So I think like possibly Joe Simon or another inker inked this. Some of the stuff is inked by Kirby, but you can see some of the lines get different when you go to different pages. So these are 2 nice volumes, and this is because there was Archie, which was more of a jokey sort of kids thing. This was actually them trying to sell you on romance and real life romance and divorce and stuff like that. I don't think they had divorce stories, but they had those elements of struggles of relationships. And at some point after that, did I get to everything here? I believe I did. Some point after that, Simon and Kirby broke up. And when they broke up, one of the things Kirby wanted to do was a new strip. So he had a writing partner named Dave Wood, and they struck out and they did Sky Masters. And this is a reproduction. There's like 3, or maybe there's 4. There's like a bunch of reproductions of this new classic news strip. And of course, I think I have all of them. But this is my favorite because it has some of the color. So like the interview with Dave Wood and the article with Jack Kirby and Dave Wood, the writer of this. And you also get to see the cool effects of the mood color, like that sort of thing. They restored some of this stuff, but trying to keep that mood color. And that's something where instead of just using, like if in the movie you use lighting and gels, a lot of times in these 50s comics to get the mood, they would, do solid colors for pieces. And I think I had a better example of that somewhere. But ultimately, you can see as some of it, you could look at it and say, well, this and that doesn't work. But then when you look at this stuff, it's really dramatic. And it's really nice to look at. And you see what the cover that made the page that made the cover, giving you that sort of effect you might see in film. And if Wally Wood, who's the inker of this stuff here specifically, is a fan of, every comic artist at this time was a fan of Citizen Kane. So they're trying to get those lighting effects into the comic books. And I believe this one was colored, the guides was done by Kirby. Instead of just doing a gray thing, it's much more dramatic, sort of using the form and say, we can add some color to this and be inventive and see what would this be? This would be possibly like a sunset, and you get these nice effects on it. So that said, then of course I dented it. That's what happens when you have your favorite books. Did I get through? Nope. The last thing in the before pre-Marvel period is the Challenges of the Unknown. Now, this is some of it's written by Kirby, some was written by Dave and Dick Wood, who I mentioned before, and also half of this is inked by Wally Wood. And this, of course, is the precursor to the Fantastic Four, even though the big difference between the Challengers basically took on a task. So the big difference when you get to the Fantastic Four is that, they're bickering, they're arguing and stuff like that. And you can get some information on that from this Marvel, the Untold story. But then you can also get someone who's a historian, which is Roy Thomas, 75 years of Marvel. I'm gonna pull this book out. I'm gonna put this aside. Told you I was gonna do it. I said I wasn't gonna do it. Got a nice curved picture of the Hulk here. And same as that. Since I talked about Captain America, might as well find something to Cap in here. And what would be the point of talking Simon and Kirby about? Oh, this is drawn. Wait, it's cat. Oh, here we go. So, I mean, Phil Everett, Kirby drawing the Spider-Man in here, and detailing the history of Marvel, and a must book, but a book that's hard to manage. And we're gonna get to more books like this that are extremely hard to manage. Before we go that far, you just want art. You just want Kirby art. Then you go to the Silver Age of comic book art by Arlen Schumer. This is the revised edition. I really like the original edition, but come on, this is the revised edition. It's a must to have. I think I've talked about the 4-color process, and I think do sort of a reprint book, and maybe he's already done it and I'm just ignorant of it, of keeping that 4-color process and really showcasing. This is the cell. The cell is coming. You got the thing here, and then this has some nice quotes, mostly from Kirby in this section. Has a few other artists, but it also has a couple from Stan, and I think, and in this section here too. So this will do the cell. This is keeping the 4-color process and saying that's a part of the art, not saying we got to clean that up so we can get rid of that old school thing. I would think you should keep it, and this is the cell for me. So I think this one's signed. Yes, it is. It is signed by Arlen Schumer, and he has some great videos on comic book history. Covered all of these books here. I covered these 2 books here. So did we get through with the Marvel stuff? Oh man, we didn't get through the Marvel yet. Here we go. Said I wasn't gonna do it, but I did it. Oh no. Artist edition of Jack Kirby's Marvel's Heroes and Monsters. Now this comes to the Marvel, and then afterwards, so you get, I don't believe there's whole stories, but you get just many of the different inkers during this period, and of course, what would it be without having the X-Men? This is the price of admission for me. So we did it. Covered all of the. After leaving Marvel, Jack Kirby's magnum opus of Jack Kirby's New Gods, Mr. Miracle, and the Forever People. It's in a nice volume. Oh man, that's what I forgot. All you Arrow fans, I did forget. Jack Kirby did the Green Arrow, and he did some very magical arrows, which is right up Jack Kirby's wheelhouse, and made it change the strip around. And the paper, this has the great paper. This is almost newsprint paper, and it has the Fourth World in 1 volume. Oh, sorry, in 4 volumes, but in 1 set. And I don't. Better reprints of the Hunger Dogs. So you have that portion in there. The story that was in the. I have this. I like this painting of Kirby stuff more than some of the inking he did. But then I think they tried to go back to Mike Royer's original inks on some of this stuff, and but I was still a fan when I found out. Found out about the Demon. I bought as many as I could of this, and I got the exciting book. And wait a second, I think I'm blowing through this stuff. Got OMAC. You gotta have OMAC. It's wacky, but it's fun, and it's sort of going similar to like Captain Marvel. Got through that, and of course, before we leave. One of the Commandee was also Kirby's longest run. Writing the script is almost the same. So, I mean, But I act like I'm not gonna open it up. I have to open it up. Oh man, it's upside down. Oh, I'll have to pick it up. There we go. Life size to buy for your kids. And let your kids color it in. It's the biggest, most expensive coloring book out there. And when I did this video the last time, I thought the New Guys edition had 1, 2, 5, and 6. But this has two of my favorite stories. Well, 1 and 2 are packed. We have Dark Side in here. They have all this classic stuff. And this one you do not color in. But this has all of my classic favorite New God stories in it, which would be The Death Wish of the Terrible Turpin, which scared me as a kid, which has The Pact, its Glory Boat, and the first 2 issues, which were, just establishing all those characters, and had the first moment where Jack Kirby, where Darkseid says, "If Orion was my son." And I think that covers it. I think I got most of the Kirby stuff out of the way. This is not showing you my Kirby comic books. But lastly, when Marvel was doing the origins of Marvel Comics, and they did the Son of Origin and all the Fireside books, which I think were big sellers for Marvel. And I think Jack Kirby was working in animation with Stan on the Fantastic Four. And they were, at that point, I guess they were talking again between Stan and Jack. I think, because there's, I think, plots that Kirby sent in, even though sometimes some historians have said it's been more, the Stan Lee Surfer. I think since Kirby did write some plots, whether you like this, was heavily involved in this one. And he got to do this opening scene, which I really like the scene. So we got that. It's a lot, one of the things I didn't get into with Kirby, which I'd like to, but this is just a fun book to have. I saw this in one of the comic book greats, and they had images from this, and I had to buy it. This doesn't have the class. I said all of this stuff is a must buy. I just keep saying it, but that's it. I covered it, and I got it under 30 minutes. That's my Kirby collection of collections. There's more till, sorry, I keep saying tomorrow. It's tomorrow's. Their books are amazing to get. And then you can go crazy and then try to search for more Kirby stuff if you don't have it already. All right, I did it. Under 30 minutes later.